All right, for more on this, I'm joined by Maria Luisa Rossel, who is Uno TV's Washington correspondent, and she joins us in the studio. Great to have you with us. So,
my pleasure.
You were at the embassy where the Mexican ambassador spoke not too long ago. What did he have to say about the negotiations here with Washington?
So for Mexico, this is the beginning of a process of negotiations that will continue tomorrow. What is interesting is that before this press conference at the Mexican embassy took place, President Donald Trump tweeted that the conversations will continue. So both parties basically acknowledged that more things have to be done in order to detain the huge influx of Central American migrants that are coming through the Mexican territory and want to get asylum into the U.S. What we don't know are the details of what Americans want, what are Mexicans willing to give up, or what kind of concessions are they going to do. So what Marcelo Ebrard, the foreign minister of Mexico, acknowledged is that, yes, there is a huge influx of Central American migrants, and that they are willing to negotiate with the Americans. The Americans want, he never go into the detail what measurements, but he said very clear they want immediate effect measurements. And we Mexicans want long-term effect measurements. So there is a discrepancy over there.
Sure, the two appear to be looking at the immigration crisis a bit differently. So a lot of critics here in the United States want to say that President Trump has used these tariffs to distract from his own domestic problems at home, namely the Mueller report. But certainly Republicans want to say that we've seen these huge migrant caravans crossing from Guatemala into Mexico, and they don't see that the Mexican government is doing enough. What has Mexico's security situation been like along its border with Guatemala, and what do you think it may need to do to appease the Trump administration, again, not knowing what's going to be enough to sort of stave off these tariffs and to please the administration enough?
So that would be probably one of the main points that they are discussing. And before the meeting at the White House started between the delegation of Mexico and Vice President Mike Pence and Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, Peter Navarro, who is one of the main advisors of President Donald Trump, and he knows about commercial stuff, and he's one of his main advisors in trade, said that if Mexicans were willing to make some concessions, he never named what concessions were those, then maybe the tariffs will not go in place. So this is understood by Mexicans in Mexico and in the embassy here in Washington, D.C., as Mexicans need to put more security forces along the border, especially the border between Mexico and Guatemala, where the huge influx is coming more, and that they need to have more presence of military forces and policemen. Mexicans will probably have a difficulty over there because they lack resources. One of the huge criticisms toward the Mexican government is that they have cut the budget for the National Immigration Institute, who is actually the governmental agency which deals with immigration issues. So the Mexican government has to show that they are willing to cooperate, put more military presence, police presence. But there's another point which is very important. The red line that the Mexican government had put since the beginning of these conversations before the meeting today, and they reiterated on Monday when the foreign minister of Mexico, Marcelo Ebrard, came, is that they are not willing to sign any agreement with the United States government in order for Mexico to become a safe third country, which is a very strong desire from the U.S. government to have the migrants staying at Mexico and request asylum from Mexico and not from the U.S., which is something that the government of Mexico has said we're not going to sign any agreement. But at the end, probably Mexico will have to make a concession in that sense and say, well, okay, we're not going to sign any agreement, but maybe we have to hold more number of asylum seekers in Mexico territory.
Maria Luisa Rossel, it's been fantastic having you on. Appreciate your really detailed reporting here. Thanks for being with us.
My pleasure.